Welcome back to some more Umineko When They Cry. So where we last left off, Beato was able to successfully revive Shannon with the help of George. But, happiness got ended very abruptly due to the Siester sisters and Eva Beatrice. So, unfortunately, Beato had wasn't able to have the combative power inside of retreat. This is very unfortunate. I don't think there's any sort of way. Like I said, I was like, man, there's no way we can compete this sort of power. It's fucking ludicrous as hell. Think about it that way. So now we're at the guest house. We'll see how that will turn out for the result. Something hard to believe that had happened. Apparently, when Aunt Eva had left for a second to wash her hands, Uncle Kraus and Aunt Naughty had disappeared. There's no way they went hiding somewhere. Of course, the doors and windows had all been rigorously checked, and all were locked from the inside. Not one of them was broken. And that wasn't just true for the first floor, the second floor was the same. Again, all the doors and windows had locks built in a way that made it impossible to lock them from the outside. In other words, there was no way that Uncle Kraus and Aunt Naughty had gone outside. And yet they couldn't be found. Furthermore, they weren't the only ones who had disappeared. So had George Aniki, of all people. What? Y'all didn't check the second floor windows? George Aniki had left saying he was going to get more coffee, and had gone downstairs more than an hour earlier. We'd assumed that he was having a conversation with Aunt Eva and the rest, but Aunt Eva, who had been in the lobby this whole time, said that no one had come down. Since all the doors and windows were locked from the inside, it was unthinkable that they had gone outside. However, 3 humans had evaporated from this barricaded guest house, which had become a perfect closed room. In a situation like this, we couldn't imagine that this was because they were playing hide and seek and trying to scare us with a prank. It was probably reasonable to assume that they'd been caught up in this crime. When Aunt Eva had learned that her only son was missing, she had gone half insane, running from room to room and yelling his name. And Jessica, who had suddenly lost both of her parents, had chased after her. Suddenly lost both of her parents, had chased after her. Cries of George, George, and Mom, Dad had continued to echo through the guest house for some time. I think George said something about wanting to see Shannon's dead face. It would be reasonable to assume that he snuck out of the guest house and went to the mansion, but I didn't have a clue about Uncle Kraus and Aunt Naughty. Did they see him leave and then go to the mansion and search for him? Without even telling Aunt Eva? At this rate, it's only a matter of time before we start planning to leave the guest house and go search for them. When that time comes, I'll agree. We thought staying holed up in the guest house would be safe, which was why our big happy group of 12 people locked themselves up here this morning. Yet, now there's only 4 of us left. That means staying here is no guarantee of safety. However, there's one thing we can't afford to forget. All the doors and windows were locked from the inside. This is a closed room. How did they manage to vanish from this place? That's a good question. We searched around thoroughly. However, we couldn't find any traces of someone hiding. The 3 of them had almost certainly been taken outside the guest house.
どうやってでしょう。
I wonder too.
まさか隠し扉とかがあるとか。
No, there's no way.
隠し扉？
A hidden door?
扉も窓も外から閉めることは構造上不可能です。釣り糸の類を使ってもこの構造では無理でしょうな。となれば扉や窓以外から出たと考えるのが妥当でしょう。確かに。
そういう論法にもなるだろうよ。隠し扉が存在しないなんて断言は誰にもできない。しかしそういう発想に飛躍する前に、俺はもっとシンプルな可能性も疑ってる。
A simpler possibility?
と申しますと？
For some time, Badler had been opening windows, opening shutters, and checking outside, repeating this for each window.
この窓は静かだな。なるほど。この窓は他と違って建物の構造上風が吹き込まないわけか。
That's strange.
そのようですな。こんなにも外は風雨なのに雨も風も入ってこないとは不思議な気持ちです。
南條先生、今窓を開けた時音を感じたかい？
いえ、気にはなりませんでしたな。よく油が効いていると思います。
つまり誰も見ていない廊下の窓からひょろっと抜け出すことは可能なわけだ。しかもこの窓なら風も吹き込まないから、風圧でカーテンや扉が音を立てることもない。静かなもんさ。
It does seem like anyone could put like some sort of a, something, a liquid substance and make it, windows and stuff like that to make less of a noise, it seems. Just a smooth escape. Be quiet. Badler leaned forward and looked at the ground below. He was searching for some sign that George had jumped down. But at a glance, he didn't see any mark like that on the grass in the middle of the pouring rain.
こういう窓が1階にもあるのかもしれない。誰にも気づかれずに表へ出ることは可能だぜ。
しかし扉はおろか、窓は全て施錠されて鎧戸まで閉まっていましたぞ。出ることは可能でも閉めることは不可能だ。
Maybe possible to go out through them, but we couldn't lock them afterwards. Yeah, and wait. How are they able to do that, though?
閉められるぜ。こうやってカチャンとな。
Badler closed the window and locked it as though this was perfectly obvious.
まさかバトラさんは。
Wait.
最後に中の人間が鍵を閉めればこんな密室は朝飯前だ。
しかしそれでは
What? Nanja turned pale and shook his head several times, because the thing Badler had said had forced him to face a fact that was frightening even to imagine.
俺の想像したトリックならな。しかしこんなトリックを使えば怪しまれる人物は極めて限定される。
I wonder. I wonder there was someone somewhere that would just like, nonchalantly see, oh, the window for some reason was open. Well, I'll close it. I'll close it down and lock it up again. Nah, that'd be too obvious, man. He didn't want to say it in front of Nanjo, but after eliminating Jessica, who had been with him the whole time, only Nanjo and Eva could have done it.
私はそんなことをしませんぞ。誓ってもいい。
となるとエヴァおばさんと南條先生のアリバイ合戦ってことになる。
The doctor or Eva? Oh, Eva sure is a, A little sketchy.
俺たちは二人とも怪しんで、それぞれを別々に監禁すればいいだけの話。
What, is there gonna be a trial for that?
逆に言えば、このトリックはもっと生存者が多ければ有効かもしれないが、これだけ人数が減った状況下では大して有効ではないんだ。
No, on the contrary, there'd be a chance of having your own neck strangled by using it. It would have been more advantageous to make it look like the culprit was outside, to intentionally leave a door unlocked or break a window.
もしこの失踪劇が今日の昼にでも起これば、俺は自信満々にこの説を発表しただろうよ。だがこの段階に至っては全然自信が持てないぜ。何なんだこいつは。一体何を意味してやがるんだ。
How are they able to How are they able to go through something that is easily locked then to begin with?
この密室はよ。
This closed room, quote unquote.
やはりその。
なんだい、南條先生。思いつきでもいいから言ってくれよ。
Nanjo looked like he was trying to swallow his words, even though he thought of something, so I urged him on. After Dr. Nanjo refused several times, saying that it was just a foolish idea, he finally said it out loud.
その。やはりこれは本当に魔女の仕業ではないのかと。
A work of a witch? It might be a very stupid question, but still.
バカバカしい。
Of course I would hear the response.
魔女なんているわけがねえぜ。
There's no way.
魔女は私たちに訴えたいのです。人間にはできないことをやってのけるからこそ、自分を魔女だと認めさせたいに違いないのです。私はこのゲストハウス全体の密室からの失踪は、そういう魔女からのメッセージだと感じています。考えてはならないのです。意味なんてきっとないのです。私は恐ろしい。
Maybe we have a witch among us. As Dr. Nanjo shook with fear, it looked like he was trying to erase the fearsome thoughts that he kept imagining one after the other. When we went down the stairs, Aunt Eva and Jessica were enraged, and were each persistent in their desire to leave this place and search for their respective families. It was a desire that naturally hits those who can no longer see their family. Aunt Eva told Dr. Nanjo and me to stay here, but I shook my head and started walking.
もう引きこもりはたくさんだぜ。俺も外の空気を吸いたくなってきた。
ああ、行くならさっさと行こうぜ。もうこんなところに閉じこもってるのは真っ平さ。早く父さんや母さんやジョージ兄さんを探しに行こう。
The blood had all risen to Jessica's head. I hope it doesn't set off her asthma.
残りたい人は勝手に残ってればいいわ。とにかく私たちは表を探してくるわ。
南條先生はどうする？一人で留守番してるかい？
I don't think he can actually survive all by himself, though. Of course, he's like, fuck no.
私もご一緒させてください。
Don't leave me here. Rather than holing up alone in a guest house whose security was by no means guaranteed, it would be better to enter a dangerous zone as a group of 4 people. Aunt Eva had a gun. Moving separately from her was almost like asking to be made into the next victim. In this way, the four of us decided to leave the guest house. Even though it should have been safe to barricade ourselves here, we lost 8 people after doing so. It was almost as though if this was a holding cell from which the sacrifices could be killed one after another. We removed the chain, unlocked the front door and opened it. It was already pitch black. While there were some lights outside that dimly lit the pathway, they didn't have enough power to pierce the darkness that some suspicious person might be hiding it.
行くわよ。遅れても知らないんだからね。
Still holding her gun, Aunt Eva dashed out without an umbrella. Jessica followed after her. After glancing at each other, Dr. Nanjo and I chased after them. And now we're in the outside. Gloomy rain. What in the world is happening in this mansion, on this island? Good question. Looks like sounds like a shithole for deja vu. I've just been shut up in the guest house with the rest of the cousins since yesterday, so I don't know anything about what's going on outside. Just what is happening that I don't know about outside this room, in the mansion, on this island. Everything is happening. Everything is proceeding, and everything is ending without my knowing it. Somewhere in my heart, I've already started giving up. Most likely, not one of us will see tomorrow morning. When the seagulls cry, nobody will be left alive. That's what a way to end the sentence there. Oh, time didn't move. Sunday, October 5th, 1986. It is 6:03 p.m. The Witch's Courtroom.
父さん。母さん。誰がこんなことを。
Jessica's woeful voice echoed throughout the rose garden. It seems Jessica's parents had died outside. Perhaps it was the intuition of a person who lived on this island. After checking the part of the rose garden where Aunt Rosa and Maria had fallen and seeing nothing, Jessica went to look in the arbor next. Normally, the arbor was probably a wonderful location to enjoy tea peacefully while appreciating the roses on a good sunny day. Maybe even Uncle Kraus and Aunt Natsuki had days when they relaxed and enjoyed their tea together here. In that arbor lay their corpses. At least they aren't drenched in the rain like Aunt Rosa and Maria had been. But there was no way I could say that out loud to Jessica at that moment.
どうなんだ南條先生。
絞殺ですな。
Strangulation?
ほらご覧なさい。首にくっきりと何か細いもので締めた跡が残っている。
だな。まさかこっちが主たる死因のわけはねえだろうよ。
Just straight up, just right there, lay 2 stake-like weapons decorated with an occult design, which had been found driven into Uncle Kraus's thigh area and near Aunt Natsuki's calf. When we found these sticking out on my parents' forehead and chest, we decided to preserve the crime scene and leave them for the police, but Jessica didn't care about much matters and immediately pulled the stakes out of her parents' forsaken bodies.
これで頭、胸、腹、膝、足の5つをえぐられた死体が出たわけね。
That's right. The witch's epitaph is almost done. Oh boy. I mean, we're at chapter 17. Like we're almost done.
第8の番まではこれで終わったわ。続くは第9の番なの。
Alright, I mean, let's see here on the Ninth Twilight. Let's see. The Ninth Twilight, the witch shall revive, and none shall be left alive. Oh no. We gotta hear more Eva Beatrice cringe. The witch shall be revived. Oh no. Damn it all. Rimwar. Did Marut? I think I already seen Marut. The word is probably related to a fictional unit of lens from Nausicaa, the Valley of the Wind, seems to be about 1 meter long. Epitaph discussions. Oh, this one I haven't seen. Characters sometimes discuss their interpretations of the epitaph. If you would like to explore the epitaph, you may find it interesting to browse their discussions in the message browser. Additional translation notes may sometimes appear. Their discussion. Oh, I guess it's one of those things I really need to go back and reread eventually, huh? Of having to dissect the epitaph. Hmm.
魔女はよみがえり、誰も生き残れはしない。上等だぜ。魔女がよみがえるってことは、犯人が堂々と姿を現してくれるってことなんだろう。何が誰も生き残れないだ。私が殺してやる。父さんと母さんを殺した犯人をこの手で絶対に殺してやる。
I don't know how that would turn out, but okay. Jessica let her emotions flow out as she howled furiously. To avoid being crushed by grief, she could do nothing but resist it with anger.
まだジョージが見つかってないわ。
Yep, no sign of George yet. What do we got here? So we got Kraus. Corpse covered in the rose garden arbor. The cause of death is assumed to be strangulation by a cord-shaped object. A stake-shaped weapon was sticking out of his thigh. If not for the epitaph, stakes wouldn't even be needed. What a pain. And there's nothing. Corpse discovered in the rose garden arbor. The cause of death is assumed to be strangulation as well. Stake-shaped weapon sticking out of her calf. Why does the epitaph even need to follow in the first place? A game? Sounds like the endless witch is complaining about how the rules turn out. We still haven't found George.
ジェシカちゃんたちはここにいたければいるといい。
In the arbor?
私は屋敷へ行くわ。
エヴァさん、バラバラに行動してはいけない。みんなで一緒に行動しなくては危険です。
Even though I want to make a theory that it's all part of Eva's blame in a way of the sort, she's gonna die.
兄さんたちはもうどうしようもないわ。でもジョージはまだどこかで生きているかもしれない。ここで時間を潰してる暇はないのよ。
As Aunt Eva screamed this, Jessica glared at her. Eva had no more time to bother about the dead. She was more concerned for the safety of her only son, who had yet to be seen.
ジェシカちゃんはここでお父さんとお母さんのそばにいるといい。私はちょっと屋敷に行ってくるわ。バトラ君も南條先生もここにいてくれていい。
After arbitrarily saying this, Aunt Eva rushed out of the arbor. Oh, she's gonna go to the mansion all by herself. I call that... Jesus, man, Eva going on a solo mission? I called out to stop her, but there was no way she would listen. However, being alone in this situation meant nothing short of death. If we silently watched her leave, it would be the same as letting her die. Since Aunt Eva was unwilling to stop, we had no choice but to follow her. And while it may be cruel to say so, Uncle Kraus and Aunt Natsuki were already dead, so there was nothing more we could do for them. In the end, we had no choice but to console Jessica and head for the mansion together. Fortunately, Jessica stood up. Perhaps she had been able to break free from her grief, but what had surfaced in this place was an expression like a demon's.
私がこの手でぶっ殺して必ず仇を取ってやる。行こうぜバトラー。犯人を見つけたら邪魔をするなよ。私が絶対に殺す。
俺も親父たちの仇があるんだ。悪いが早いもん勝ちだぜ。
Sorry, I got my, I gotta avenge my family as well. First come, first serve, you know.
そうだな。
What, is there going to be a competition between the two?
ぶっ殺してやろうぜ。
At my words, Jessica finally seemed to feel like we sympathized with her emotions. She still had that dark expression, but I felt that Jessica had regained some of her sanity. We took off, chasing after Aunt Eva. Through the rose garden, up the stone steps, running at full speed towards the mansion, whose large, intimidating shadow flashed in the lightning. With this, the murders of the epitaph have reached the 8th twilight. And then, on the 9th twilight, the witch shall revive. None shall be left alive. I will most likely lose my life, but at the very least, I want to burn the truth into my eyes. That's the only thing motivating me to move right now. We were able to meet up with Aunt Eva, who was having trouble with the lock to the front door. It seemed that all the blood had risen to Aunt Eva's head, and was probably making her fingers clumsy. It looked like she couldn't even handle the simple task of inserting the key into the lock. You don't got a key for that? Oh, then there was a faint sound. The sound of the door unlocking. Just as though it had waited for all the survivors to unite before opening. It felt to me as though the malicious mansion was trying to swallow up all the remaining humans at once. Perhaps the stench that erupted outwards the instant the door opened couldn't be described as just a smell. It wasn't just a charred smell from grandfather. I think it also may have contained the regrets of the servants and Dad's group. All of the dead. What did it mean as it floated out, overwhelming us? Was it the cry of the dead telling us not to enter? However, Aunt Eva didn't even flinch at something like that. And we who had to chase after her were forced to step into the mansion even after receiving that message.
ジョージ？ジョージ？聞こえたら返事をしなさい！ジョージ！
Aunt Eva shouted at the top of her lungs. Considering the situation, it's probably far too optimistic to imagine that he's alive. When we started following Aunt Eva's example and calling out George's name in loud voices, Aunt Eva spotted something and stopped walking. She was standing in front of the door to the parlor.
これは南條先生、ちょっと来てもらえるかしら。
何事ですかな。
I'd heard about the eerie magic circles written on the doors, like the one in the parlor from the adults. Eerie is the only word to describe that thing, which was scribbled with a deep red paint, reminiscent of blood, so that it slowly dripped down. However, that had supposedly been there since this morning. Wondering why Aunt Eva, who had supposedly seen it already, would think it odd now Jessica and I stared at the door.
確かにこんな数字が書かれていた記憶はありません。
So what? There's something. So the eerie circle is there, but but something really changed. It's like they decided they edited the design a bit more. Maybe there's another dead body in there besides Shannon, or possibility someone's in there, or was.
ええ、なかったわ。不気味な魔法文字みたいなのは書かれていたけど、数字は書かれていなかった。
Numbers. From what the two of them said, only the magic circle had been there this morning. However, right now, there were 8 digits written near the upper part of the magic circle. 07151129. That is one hell of a eerie, creepy pasta numbers. Is this like a 1, 2, 3, 4? Looks like a bit of a code there. I didn't know what it meant, but I didn't even want to imagine what someone had been thinking when they wrote it. It was drawn with the same paint as the magic circle, but it had clearly been written very recently. The way it had dried and the condition of the color was completely different from the magic circle part.
どうせ魔法的な意味があるんだろうぜ。深く考えたって意味なんかあるわけもないさ。
Jessica intentionally spat those words out in an attempt to push aside the eerie feel it gave off.
魔法陣というものかもしれませんが、
Magic Square?
ある種の数字遊びに魔除けが宿るという考え方です。どの列を足しても同じ数字になるみたいなものを皆さんも見聞きしたことがおありでしょう。
あれは四角形の中に埋めた数字の話じゃなかった？これは横一列だもの。何の意味があるのかさっぱりだわ。多分ジェシカちゃんの言うのが正解よ。私たちが深く考えたところで意味なんか何もないわ。
So we're not just gonna dissect what it means, we're just gonna barge through the door just like that? Even though she said that, she probably suspected that it actually meant something. You know, there's gotta be some hidden meaning to it. And Eva was definitely writing that number down on an old receipt or something with a short ballpoint pen. Unless it had some obvious pattern, it'd probably be tough to memorize a code made up of an 8-digit number. Well, it's gotta be some random ass phone number or something. Or maybe a code that could mean something. Well, it's not, I mean, there's no way it's a Morse code, but it could be like a code of a sort. Maybe there is a puzzle that we gotta do later. No words.
これ日にちとかな。
Could be. Could be the date.
日にち？何の話？
いや偶然だろうけどな。
Maybe we gotta dissect like the date. Well, there's no way it's like July 15, 11, 29. No, there's no way.
俺の誕生日7月15日なんだ。
July 15th?
0715が7月15日を示すのかなって思ったら。
What a coincidence. This is a little bit of a...
1129もほらその11月29日って読んだらちょうど語呂がいいかなって思ってよ。
November 29th. No, where is it? November 29th. What does it really mean, though, when it comes to no, 11/29?
なんでバトラーの誕生日がこんなとこに書いてあるんだよ。
Now here's the thing, though. If his birthday, if it was his birthday written as a part of the dates of a number code, is this low key? Does this numerical message low key taunting Battler by the endless witch?
そして11月29日ってなんだよ。
AKA the culprit?
俺が知りてえぜ。まあたまたまの偶然だろうけどな。
Or probably someone low key taunting you.
そう考えたらなんだか不気味になっちまったぜ。
It's a little eerie.
11月29日が誰かの誕生日だったりとかするのか？
Probably.
うちの家族は違うぜ。親父もキリエさんも演者も違う。もちろん俺のお袋もだ。
心当たりがありませんが、金蔵さんの誕生日でも源氏さんの誕生日でもないはずだ。
うちの家族も違うわよ。ローザやマリアちゃんでもないわ。
うちの家族だって違うぜ。
What did she say? Is not.
カノン君も違うし、シャノンも違う。私、使用人の人の誕生日にはちゃんとプレゼント渡してるからみんな知ってるけど、11月29日に誕生日の人間なんて知らないぜ。
Once we started imagining that the 8 digits weren't meaningless, but actually 2 dates written together, it really started to look that way. However, its true meaning may be something completely different, or there may be no meaning at all. Anyway, since we don't have any real clues, it's probably pointless to stand around here worrying about it. Bit of a... So if it's a coincidence that Battler's birth date is on there, and 11/29, does that mean November 29th means of someone else's birthday is someone that is also close to Battler or in love with him? It's making me curious there. I wonder if there's someone out there, November 29th, who is real close to Battler in terms of relationship. And maybe it's a way of, I don't know. I'm being really stupid. Probably pointless to stand around here worrying about it. The inside of the parlor is much more important. This morning, behind each of the doors with a magic circle drawn on them, had been the body of a victim. So, if something new has been added to this door, does that mean something new has been added inside the parlor? When Aunt Eva tried to open it, she felt the resistance of the lock. She immediately took out a master key and put it in the keyhole. Oh boy, let's see what's inside. As soon as she opened the door, Aunt Eva let out a high-pitched scream and ran inside. That alone was enough to tell us what had happened inside the room. Dr. Nanjo and I looked at each other, and I shook my head slightly as we entered the parlor.
Georgie! Georgie! しっかりして! Georgie! 南條先生、早く!
George Aniki lay there crumpled alongside Shannon Chan's corpse. His chest was stained bright red, and judging by his still opened eyes, I'd hate to say it to Aunt Eva, but I couldn't pick up any signs of life. After moving to take George's pulse, Dr. Nanjo shook his head, wordlessly reporting that George was dead. Brushing him aside, Aunt Eva once again crouched beside George Aniki and started crying at the top of her lungs. With Aniki's death, one thing is certain: the murders hadn't ended on the 8th twilight. The epitaph was being carried out in its complete form, including the 9th twilight. And none shall be left alive. I was really starting to lose track of things. Well, you know what they say. No matter how much the Twilights follows through and through, there are no rules of the Endless Witch wanting to kill them all. Or something bullshit online. For some reason, Aunt Eva's half-crazed cries actually made me cool down. Crestfallen and exhausted, I flopped onto the sofa and plunked my feet on top of the table. Maybe all these murders numbed my heart. Instead of just being frightened, I felt completely confused. I'm so confused, man. Dad and Kairi-san are dead, and people have been killed off one by one, starting with the servants. And there's been a hell of a lot of them by now. I don't know when the first murder happened, but they might have been killed at a rate about 1 person per hour by now. We believe that the boat will come for us around 9 tomorrow. There's still a full 12 hours until then. How many more sacrifices to the witch will there have to be for us to survive? With the 4 of us, if one goes each hour, we won't last any longer than 4 hours. We don't even know if we'll last until midnight tonight. Yesterday after lunch, we came into this parlor. Just as they started talking about serving some tea Aunt Rosa had bought, we kids decided to take a walk. Maria was jumping around, wasn't she? Didn't Shannon-chan bring us some cookies? She said Kumasawa-san had baked them or something. It would have been hilarious if she'd baked some mackerel into them, wouldn't it? That's right. I'll never hear Kumasawa-ba-chan's mackerel jokes again, will I? Oh, right. If I only remember stuff about Kumasawa-ba-chan, that wouldn't be fair to everyone else. Why did Dad and Kairi-san even go outside? It's not like going without food for a day would kill us. So why did Gluttony get a hold of them and make them go out for food? I'll bet that fearless dad of mine just started complaining about being hungry. Kairi-san, you were supposed to be the brakes for my reckless dad. Why didn't you stop him? And what about your daughter, Ong? She's still just 6 years old. Don't tell me you plan to leave her in my care. After all, it's doubtful now whether even I'll be able to leave this island alive. Yeah, well, they keep, Battler keeps mentioning his sister, but we're 3 episodes in. After all, it's doubtful now whether even I'll be able to leave this island alive.
やめなさい。こんな時に争ってどうするんですか。ジェシカさん、やめなさい。
It's been kind of noisy for a while. By the time I looked up to see what it was, Jessica and Aunt Eva had suddenly started fighting each other. No, maybe I should say that Jessica was grabbing at Aunt Eva.
エヴァおばさんが父さんたちを殺したんだ
Oh shit. So last episode, George has to put up with Rosa's bullshit. Now Jessica is just barking at Eva.
他に説明がつかない。
何をバカなことを。あんたのお父さんたちなんか知るわけないでしょ。
I mean, do I really want to make an obvious guess what Eva was really plotting to do, and what bullshit she has to put up with? Like the obvious spite coming from her. Then, like I can just go back and reread the part, you know. Why should I know anything about what happened to your parents?
ゲストハウスの1階にいたのは誰だよ。エヴァおばさんだ。1階のロビーには父さんと母さんと、そしてエヴァおばさんがいた。生き残ったのは誰だ。エヴァおばさんだけだ。どうして。あんたが犯人だからに決まってるじゃないか。父さんと母さんを殺して外へ運び出して白々しく鍵を閉めて魔女の仕業なんかを装いやがったんだ。
Oh my. It's crazy. Oh my god. It was making it seem like it was the witch's fault.
じゃあジョージはどうしていなくなったのよ。1階には降りてきてないのよ。じゃあ2階でいなくなったっていうの。2階には誰がいたのよ。
I wanted to answer this, but I'm pretty sure it's obvious.
あなたたちがいたんじゃない。あなたは知ってたんでしょ。ジョージがこっそりゲストハウスを抜け出すのを。
To be fair, it does seem like a really long time to get coffee.
それを自分は何も知らないような顔を抜け抜けと。
It's not like the guest house ran out of like a substance to make coffee, right? George probably had to go to the fucking mansion again.
あんたがジョージを止めててくれれば、ジョージは
やめなさいというのに。ジェシカさんはずっといとこ部屋にいました。そしてエヴァさんもずっと1階のロビーにいました。そして2人とも何も悪くない。ただ家族を失って悲しいだけなんです。
So in conclusion, both sides are in the wrong.
犯人なんか誰もいない。どこにもいない。ただただ魔女のせいなだけなんです。だからお二人で憎み合うのはやめなさい。
Yeah, stop the madness. Alright, I guess we can go through the characters for this one, huh? So now it's only Eva, Dr. Nanjo, and Jessica and Valerie. And we got George that died. Corpse discovered in the mansion's parlor. The murder weapon is assumed to be a gun or spear-shaped object. In exchange for his soul, the witch granted an 8-digit number. 07151129. When spoken, a small golden land will be opened. The witch's fault, huh? I wonder if that's a good way to cool down the situation right now. Yeah. I finally understand why 3 people evaporated from the guest house when all of the doors and windows were locked from the inside. This is what they were after, making us think the culprit was inside and sparking this ugly mutual hatred. Has to be the culprit's, the witch's goal. But if that's the case, how did the culprit lock it from the outside? Well, here's the thing though. If they were really making the very few family members remaining to spark mutual hatred to each other. That's pretty smart, I could say. But if that's the case, how did the culprit lock it from the outside? When Dad's group was attacked, their master key was definitely stolen. But the doors and windows to the guest house were built so that you couldn't lock them from the outside, no matter how hard you tried. So that master key should have had nothing to do with the guest house closed room. Maybe the guest house isn't built that's secure. And if and that was true, man, that is some pretty lack of security there. Jessica and Aunt Eva were turning their sadness at losing their blood relatives into anger at the person in front of them. Dr. Nanja was trying to step between them, and I sat in the sofa, staring up at the ceiling, thinking about things that didn't even matter anymore with a worn-out expression. I just couldn't believe that this was the same parlor that had been so warm and pleasant midday yesterday, for just a short time before the typhoon hit. What? The sudden sound of a gunshot shook me out of my half-asleep trance. Smoke was rising out of the barrel of the gun Aunt Eva held. Jessica had fallen to the floor and was covering both her eyes. Aunt Eva and Dr. Nanja were looking down at her in shock.
大丈夫ですか、ジェシカさん。ジェシカさん。
What the fuck? What the Did Eva's just shot her? Holy shit.
私のせいじゃないわよ。
Well, you just had the gun in you. You just had the gun wielded.
あんたがよせっていうのに突っかかってくるから。
Well, you should have just fucking put the gun in safety, huh? See? This is what happens. See, people, this is what happens when a human gets a hold of a gun. Shit happens, and then now Jessica is now fucking injured from a gunshot. Way to go. Holy moly. This, you see, now Eva is a part of blame, even though it's like, oh, it was just an accident. Oh, God. What's the excuse? Did a witch possess you temporarily for a moment there?
おいおい、どうしたってんだ。何事なんだ。
Yeah, that's a good question. So, did Jessica grab at Aunt Eva, which turned into a scuffle? Did they start fighting over Aunt Eva's gun? Did some kind of impact cause the trigger to be pulled? I didn't know if the bullet had grazed her or if she'd been burned by the discharge. But either way, Jessica was covering both of her eyes, screaming, it hurts, and rolling around on the floor.
大丈夫、落ち着け。大した怪我ではありませんぞ。気をしっかり。
目が痛い。見えない。
Jesus. Did it graze her to the point that it just blinded her? Dr. Nanja let Jessica borrow his shoulder, saying that he would tend to her in the servant room. The servant room in his mansion had a bed and a first aid kit and was able to function as an infirmary.
父さんと母さんの敵！殺してやる！殺してやる！
Oh, God.
私じゃないわよ！私じゃない！
ジェシカさん、傷に触りますから、それ以上騒がないで。さあ、 使用人室に行きましょう。
Jessica continued to curse Aunt Eva as her parents' murderer. It seemed that Aunt Eva couldn't conceal her trembling at the fact that she had pulled the trigger, even if it had been an accident.
私のせいじゃないわよ。あの子が掴みかかってきたからこんなことに。私は殺してなんかないわよ。それよりジョージは誰が殺したの？そうよ、ジョージは誰が殺したのよ。
Okay, I take it back. Eva didn't. Jessica wasn't shot, but you know, something blinded her, or grazed her eye, or some shit, like some sort of gunpowder that burned her eyes.
ジョージ、ジョージ。私は悪くない。私は悪くない。
待てよエヴァおばさん、一人になるな。
I didn't know if it was because Aunt Eva couldn't bear her mistake, or if she'd given up control of her body to anger at the person who had killed her only son. Or if it was both of those all mixed together. Can be both. At any rate, she ran out into the corridor, yelling, fearful, screaming. I was also worried about Jessica's condition, but right then, I couldn't leave Aunt Eva alone. So there are two choices there. Is Balor gonna go off alone and find Aunt Eva, or is Balor gonna head to the servants' room? Very hard choices. There was a fight, and then all split up. Great. It's one of those generic moments. Why would she go off on her own in this mansion, of all places? Is she suicidal? Dr. Nanja took Jessica up towards the servant room. I chased after Aunt Eva, dashing into the depths of the mansion. Okay, so Balor decides to go off on his own and find Eva. After sitting Jessica on the servant room bed, Nanjo told her several times not to touch her eyes and examined the affected area. The barrel had probably been near her eyes. There was a possibility that the flames from the discharge had injured her corneas. There was no threat to her life, but it would probably be necessary to take her to a doctor as soon as possible. Nanjo applied emergency first aid, covering the affected area with gauze and wrapping it with a bandage. As a result, Jessica completely lost her field of vision.
いいですかな。傷が痛んだりうずいたりするでしょうが、絶対にかいたり揉んだりしてはなりませんぞ。
That's what a lot of doctors would say.
明日になったらすぐに眼科の先生のところへ行きましょう。
Ophthalmologist. I hope I don't butcher that.
あいつね、本当は私を殺すつもりだったんだ。ほんのちょっと角度が悪かったら今頃殺されてた。
Jesus. Her head would have been blown off by the...
絶対にあいつを警察へ突き出してやる。
エヴァさんはそんなことはしませんぞ。
Dang. Now we get to now we gotta... Well, Canon, he had a reason to dislike Eva.
あれは事故です。
事故なもんか。あいつが父さんと母さんを殺したんだ。 この島には19人目も魔女もいるわけがない。あいつが全ての犯人なんだ。ゲストハウスの1階にはあいつだけがいた。父さんと母さんを殺し、それを見てしまったジョージ兄さんも口封じに殺したに違いない。
Whoa, shit.
じい様や使用人の人たちだってそうさ。
When did we go with that conclusion? What did Eva? I wonder. That was another theory I was thinking in mind. Did Eva see George with Shannon and she grew jealous to where she also killed off Shannon? Is that one of those moments? I don't know about Eva killing, Kinzo and the servants,
きっ
but
とあいつは夕べの親族会議の途中でこっそり抜け出し、みんなを殺したに違いない。
Alright. Eva, low-key, have a revenge plot all planned out.
もしそうならば、警察が調べればすぐにわかることです。警察はすごいですぞ。鑑識の手にかかればわからぬことなどありません。私たちは誰かを疑ったり恨んだりする必要などないのです。すべて警察が解決してくれます。だからジェシカさんは今は体を休め、目を楽にすることに専念するのです。あまり眉間にシワを寄せては目にはもちろん美容にもよくありませんぞ。
Oh my. When Jessica's abuse of Eva had reached a crescendo, she actually had started glaring instinctively, and the pressure on her eyes had hurt her. Jessica herself realized that the more she talked, the more the wound would hurt, and regardless of whether she'd overcome her suspicions of Eva, she regained her composure for the time being.
あいつが殺したんだ。父さんや母さんもシャノンやカノン君も。
She'd heard that Canon had been killed in the chapel. Jessica still hadn't seen his face after he had died. Jessica was now less fearful about the fact that she was blinded, and more frightened that the police would carry Canon's body away while she still couldn't see, and that she would have to say her final farewell without being able to look at his face. Her anger at the culprit, and her sadness at the death of the person she'd liked. Those mixed emotions started her crying, but right now tears were actually painful for her, so she wasn't even permitted to leisurely remember his face in bygone days. Jessica could do nothing but sit on the bed and let her head droop, withstanding the pain.
さて、今度はエヴァさんの方が心配です。気に病まれていなければいいのですが。
Realizing that Jessica had calmed down for the time being and letting out a sigh, he stuck his head out into that hallway to look for any sign of the others coming back. Oh, fuck. Oh, shit. No. Oh, no. You know what? Oh, boy. I really hate to end this from here, but I think this is a good bit of a cliffhanger to end it here for now. So next part, let's see what happens to Nanjo. the family doctor. So we'll pick it off in the next part. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys later. Have a good one.